Adam and I are now joined by Ted Kravitz in the studio. Some news coming out of Formula One this afternoon, with the sport set to bring in potentially some major rule changes to make racing more exciting. So, Ted, what are the proposed changes?
Well, this comes after a meeting of Formula One's strategy group, a bunch of team bosses and the governing body that's put together to try and find a way of making the sport a bit more exciting. Not that it's particularly unexciting at the moment, it's just they like to get around a table and have a good old discussion. They did yesterday. They had a big old meeting in Biggin Hill Airport, where Bernie Ecclestone has a big office yesterday, and we've just learnt of some of their proposals. And they are just proposals at the moment, because there are still 2 more stages of ratification by governing bodies, things like that, that they have to go through. So for next year, 2016, there's actually not that much. There's just a rule about tyre compounds that teams will be able to choose whatever tyres that they bring, that they're not allowed to at the moment. The tyre supplier Pirelli says, these are your 2 tyres, you're going to race on this. And some of the teams like Ferrari or Force India, who tend to go better on the softer tyre, says, well, why can't we have a softer tyre? You know, it's better for us. In the end, I think everybody's just going to go on the softer, quicker tyre anyway, so the cars will just be built around the rule change for next year. But it's in 2 years' time that we're going to see some big rule changes, and really it's a return to the past, because for 2017, the governing body and the teams say they want to see faster cars, so a lap time drop of up to 6 seconds. So that's going considerably faster than they are at the moment. And also they want to bring refuelling back into Formula One. Now, refuelling went about 4 or 5 years ago, and the reason it went was because they wanted to save cost of transporting these big refuelling rigs around the world, very costly, and they wanted to make the sport safer. Because sometimes you saw these very quick pit stops and they were refueling the cars, and sometimes there was a mistake and the driver would go off, it would take the fuel hose with it. I almost got hit by a fuel hose when I was back reporting back in those days. It was quite dangerous. We all had to wear refueling anti-fireproof overalls and balaclavas and all of that. So they were very good reasons why they got rid of refueling a few years ago. So it seems slightly confused to me as to why they're bringing refueling back. That one is the headline, which I'm not sure is going to actually result in a solid rule change. But there are other rule changes, more aggressive looks, that would be good. A global reflection on race weekend format. Let's do away with Friday practice. We don't really need it. It just increases the costs for the teams as well. And to make starts more down to the driver. So there are some good ideas in there, some good proposals, but there are also some other ones that I don't think will see the light of day.
It's interesting you say about the safety aspect of the refueling. Obviously, you know, you mentioned about the cars, they're going to be going quicker. That's also a safety issue as well. And there's also the issue, seemingly, of the noise of the cars, which everyone got very annoyed about, that the cars were too quiet, and all the petrol heads got disappointed with that.
It's interesting you say the noise of the cars, because actually there's no mention in here of the return to more simplified, noisier engines in 2017. Now, we heard this a couple of races ago. I was speaking to Toto Wolff, the boss of Mercedes, who's saying, do you know what, we're pretty much getting to agreement on an engine for a couple of years' time, which will be much cheaper. And again, not much mention in here about considerable cost saving, although it is in there as to what they all agreed. Much simpler, cheaper and noisier. So I think we are heading towards that for 2017. It's quite easy to do. There are just a few little technical tweaks that they can do. Get rid of the fuel flow restrictions, which mean that you can have more fuel going through the engine, and turn the turbo up, get to 1,000 horsepower, which seems like a figure that people, you know, have an affinity with, and just make it cheaper for everybody. So not much mention about the new engine for 2017, but I think that in many ways is more likely to happen than perhaps the refueling coming back into it, because there were very solid reasons to get rid of refueling in the middle of a race a few years ago, and they're still there, those reasons, is to not have it. Yes, it would spice things up, but only because you'd have more people making mistakes in refueling, and it would give the strategists a bit more leeway, and that might make the races, you know, slightly more interesting, certainly from the pit reporter's point of view. But, you know, the racing's good at the moment. So there's an element, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we'll see if some of these proposals actually get properly laid out in law.